He's got the whole world in his hands, so obey his commands, and you will know peace. Shalom. You keep singing, shut up, ready? This is a song I wrote with my good friend, one of my best friends, Aaron Schust. It's called Not Like You. One who comes the raging storm, the one who walks upon the sea, earth and heaven are your own, yet you're watching over me. Oh, how majestic is your name, there is none like you. There is none like you. Together we praise the power of your name. There is none like you. Sing it like you. Oh, there is none like you. There is none like you. Together we praise the power of your name. There is none like you. Who can stand before your throne? Your kingdom will forever reign. We will sing the song of praise to the ancient of days. There is none like you. There is none like you. Together we proclaim the power of your name. There is none like you. How majestic is your name? Oh, how majestic is your name. How majestic is your name. How majestic is your name in all the earth. How majestic is your name? Oh, how majestic is your name. How majestic is your name. How majestic is your name in all the earth. There is none like you. There is none like you. Together we proclaim the power of your name. There is none like you. Oh, there is none like you. There is none like you. The men sing, ready? Mighty voice, blessed be our God. Ascribe all power to our God and King. Oh, our God and King, blessed be our God. His power in the skies, His majesty over Israel, blessed be our God. Hey! You are awesome in your holy place, in your holy place, blessed be our God. The God of Israel gives power and strength, who gives us power and strength, blessed be our God. Kingdoms of the earth sing praises to you, blessed be our God. We want to sing from Psalm 121, Song of Ascents. I'm going to sing this in Hebrew, and we're also going to sing La 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 in Hebrew, okay? La 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 la. In the original language on Mount Zion, looking over Mount Zion. It's amazing here in the holy city of Jerusalem. Hallelujah. I'm going to sing a few more songs before I have a couple of sisters in the Lord are going to come up and sing with me in a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes or so. But I want to share this song. It's from Psalm 137, and this is the story of our people by the rivers of Babylon. I was sitting on my couch reading this song, and I was thinking about my great grandparents who were saying, you probably read this, I'm sure they read this, in Eastern Europe where they lived and where they perished in the Holocaust, hoping to one day see this before their eyes, saying, how can we sing in a foreign land, just desiring to come back to the land promised to us that we weren't in for 2,000 years, we were scattered. And but it's by God's grace, God's miracle that we were back. Amen? Amen. And as I was writing this song, I told my wife, I said, this melody sounds so depressing. And I realized it needs to be. Because, they didn't get to make it back. And I always tell my children, thank God that you're able to be born on this side of history where we are back. And we decided to move back. My grandmother fled the Holocaust, came to Israel. And my mother was born in Haifa, Israel, northern Israel. And her story is crazy and long, but she was separated from her brother for 50 years. Separated during Israel's independence war in 1948. She was given up for adoption into an Orthodox home, and he was adopted into a secular family's home in a kibbutz near Akko, and he's still there today. And my mother ended up, the real mother was Jewish. Her name was Ruth Epstein. Well, after she gave up for adoption, we never heard of her. We didn't know where she went. all my uncle knew was he was adopted and he had a sister that was taken away from him. And he had looked for her for 50 years, his whole life. And as a matter of fact, what he said every day, those first few years, or at least all the time, was, Efo achuti, where's my sister, where's my sister? And fast forward 50 years later, my mother ended up to the other promised land of the Jewish people, New York City. Baruch Hashem, the greatest part of the story, she ends up getting saved in 1977 through a Messianic rabbi, Martin Chernoff, who came to town in the Poconos with my mother, ended up marrying my father and staying. And but the story still was open. She didn't know if she had any family. She wasn't told she was adopted until she was a young adult. So her whole life, she was living in Israel until she was 11 years old. And her adopted mother put her back in the orphanage. This was the second time. She was there for 5 years, from 6 years old to 11 years old. And then she was sent to America. It's just a crazy story. Long story short, is that my uncle was invited to a television show in Tel Aviv called the Meni Pe'er Show. And if anybody lives in Israel, back in the 90s, it was like the big talk show here in Israel. There was only 2 national channels back then. And they invited him to come on the TV show in Tel Aviv to help him find his family. And the host of the show and explained his story, let him meet my uncle Micha tell his story, and put a phone number on the screen telling the audience if you have any information, call this number and we'd love to help you find your family. So at the end of the show, the host looks at Micha and says, thank you for coming on the show. If we find any information, we will tell you. But we do have one more thing before you go. We have a special guest in the audience. This is your baby sister, Chana, my mother. And they flew my mother, they knew who my mother was, they found her, we kind of found them. And they flew my mother to Tel Aviv, and I was in the audience watching my mother be reunited with her brother for the first time after 50 years. Amen. Hallelujah. And I really believe that's what God is in the business of doing, especially in these last days, right, Rick? And you see probably more than I do here as a house of prayer for all nations. And God is bringing people back, and He's bringing brothers and sisters back. I don't know if you know this, but you're my brother, you're my sister. And I've been looking for you. And you've been looking for me. We are a family because Messiah's coming back for how many brides? Just one. I'm marrying one family. It's not the Protestants, it's not the Catholics, it's not just the Messianics, and we think we've arrived back to the first century original. No, we're brothers and sisters in whose blood of Messiah flows through each and every one of our veins. Amen? Amen? And I just want to sing this song, and hopefully you can just think about the history that's behind it. You know, it's easy to rejoice, and there are times to rejoice. There's always times to reflect and remember that those who couldn't rejoice today, like my great-grandparents who couldn't. And this is that longing. You know, so many non-Jewish people sung this song, but this is our story. By the Rivers of Babylon. By the rivers of Babylon, here we sit and we remembering days in Zion, singing the Lord's song. On the willow we hung our hopes, captives wishing to be free. They ask us to see with blackness the songs of Zion.
We just need to pray into this right now. Because right now, President Rivlin is meeting with various parties to form the new coalition in Israel. For those of you not from Israel, an election is not an election, it's kind of a start toward a choice, hopefully. And long story short, they have to piece together many different parties that have each received a certain number of seats in the Knesset, the equivalent of the Congress in the United States or Parliament in many other nations. And the president doesn't have a lot of powers that the prime minister does, but the president plays a major role in that when there's some kind of a deadlock of things in elections, he's the one that has to decide who will be given the first chance to form a government. And so what's happening tonight, he's meeting with various parties tonight. And included in those parties, and please don't put any of this on social media, because problems if we're on social media. Included in those parties are certain ultra-Orthodox parties that have taken a small number of seats and used that to control the Ministry of Interior, one party in particular, the Shas party. And they've how can I say, they were not elected with some great number of votes, but because they held a key number of votes to make the coalition, they could then blackmail